Hey everybody, Tyler with Meeple Mountain here, bringing you another board game review, this time from our friends in one of my personal favorite game companies, Petersen Games. They've given us a copy of Cthulhu Wars Duel expansion Extinction, which brings two beloved factions into the game, adds an additional map with new rules and elements, and continues to expand on the Cthulhu Wars Duel set of games that is a specific two-player variant of the amazingly popular and well-reviewed Cthulhu Wars game, which can ultimately play up to 12 players in this beautiful area control game. Duel takes that and truncates it down into a wonderful two-player battle where two opponents are going to pit their wits and their strategy against each other using classic Cthulhu Wars factions with a few tweaks to the rules and some gameplay elements to keep it engaging and tight for two players. Now, I have already reviewed Cthulhu Wars Duel, the core game, and talked about how great I think it is, but I'm excited to talk to you about Extinction and a little bit about what it brings to the table. So I'm saying all this to say, if you've not checked out my review of Cthulhu Wars Duel, I would encourage you to do that because that's going to talk about the main elements and overview of the game and the rules and things like that you can expect. In this review, I'm going to dive a little deeper into the factions, the board, the rules that it changes, and what you can expect if you want to collect this. Now, this is a standalone game. You could get it on your own. You don't need the original. You can play them separately, but we're going to operate under the assumption that, like me, you're a collector and want all the things. So I'm going to really talk about what this adds to the original Duel expansion and why this is something you should think about adding to your library in your two-player collection as well. So with all of that preamble out of the way, let's jump in and learn how to end the world in style in Cthulhu Wars Duel Extinction. Alright, I know I said I wouldn't get too in the weeds on the gameplay again, but I wanted to put a little something here just to make sure if you are new that you're not feeling left out or confused about how Cthulhu Wars Duel works. So in Cthulhu Wars Duel, players are going to go back and forth. It's a two-player game, and you're going to be taking turns using power to do things. Power is how you'll do everything in the game. You can use your special ability, which we see here ironically costs nothing, so that's fun. But moving, you'll move your units by paying power. Building gates is going to cost you power, and gates actually also give you power, so there's kind of an investment thing to think about there. And you can also summon your units. You'll have your cultists, monsters, and potentially one or more great old ones that you can summon. The cost is always in blue, which is how much power you have to pay, and then combat is going to be how many dice they will roll. Combat's a really interesting thing in Cthulhu Wars in the sense that it is about moving units around more than it is killing things, for the most part. When you see a combat, let's just say we have our Wendigo here who has a combat of 1. That means he's going to roll 1d6. And he'll roll it, and we'll tally the results. And if there were multiple units, you tally all those up together, make a dice pool, and roll them. And the way that the dice work in Cthulhu Wars is a 1 through 3 is a miss. Nothing happens. A 4 and a 5 is going to be a hit. It's called a pain, and that is going to force your opponent to choose and retreat one of their units from that zone at the battle conclusion. Also, then there are 6s, which are kills, and that is going to force your opponent to select and kill one of their units and remove it from the board. So as you can see with your dice, kills are less common than you might want them to be, but then really the strategy of Cthulhu Wars is about positioning your units and bullying other people's units out of key positions so that you can get the most points. Beautifully thought out, well executed area control style game. On the right, you'll see your spell books. These are basically like achievements that you'll be working to do. You are the first player. Well, that's great. You also, when you play your faction, have a set of spellbook cards, and you can look through them and select them in any order that you want. But when you meet a requirement, you'll place one of your spellbooks out here, and it's going to give you a new ability. Some of the abilities may cost you something to do, where some may be ongoing and give you a permanent passive ability that helps your faction kind of find its bearing, get up, and get going. The thing I love about it in Duel or the base game of Cthulhu Wars is the spellbooks always help even new players know what they're doing with a faction. If you're unsure what to do, pursue a spellbook. You traditionally can't win the game without all 6 of your spellbooks, so you'll need to get these by game end anyway, so it's always a great guiding light for someone who maybe feels lost or indecisive and doesn't know what to pursue on a particular turn. It's a very well thought out guidepost system for a newer player or a player player who just maybe doesn't feel connected to what they're doing on a particular turn. But this is a player faction. You'll be working and whittling down your power until you pass, in which case you would traditionally lose all of your power and go to 0, and you'd reset next round. Windwalker is a typical kind of rough example to that, where they can break that rule and actually collect additional power and hold it in reserve for the future rounds, allowing them to build up a really great reserve of power, making sure they're first player, and also giving them a lot of influence on the board. Every faction is incredibly unique in Cthulhu Wars and Cthulhu Wars Duel, and it's a thing that I love about this game that just keeps bringing me back for more. Cthulhu Wars Duel Extinction is an expansion and standalone sequel to the hit 2-player revariation of Cthulhu Wars, one of my favorite area control games that's in the market today. In this, players take on the role of various factions of great old ones from the from the lore of H.P. Lovecraft, as well as some of his associates. You will be taking on the role of cultists attempting to gather power to summon the great old one of your particular faction's choosing, and in the world in your fashion by gathering the most doom points. You can do this by controlling gates across the mapscape, or by completing rituals of annihilation that will gain you additional doom points. In Cthulhu Wars Duel, as I talked about in the original review, there are some tweaks to the base game rule in the sense that you will be gathering doom as you defeat enemies, which is a new feature in the Duel, the 2-player version. It is streamlined and meant to play much more quickly than its base predecessor. You're still going to be working to complete rituals, collect elder signs, which are secret doom points ranging from 1 to 3 points, and you'll be collecting and tabulating all these together to try to beat your opponent to 30 victory points. If you get to 30 doom points or victory points first, you will be crowned the winning faction and will have ended the world in your choosing. Players are going to start the game in the traditional Cthulhu Wars faction with their cultists out with a particular gate, in which they will then spread out across the map, building additional gates, summoning their monsters, and ultimately their great old one to the board. You'll notice here as you look around this board, if you are a Cthulhu Wars fan, you'll notice additional starting sigils from other factions. We have Black Goat and Cthulhu that were in the base game, but we also might see something like Crawling Chaos and Yellow Sign, leading us to know that there will be additional expansions to the Duel's faction setting, which makes me personally very happy to know that we'll get to see all of the beloved factions of the core game in all the Duel setting. So you'll be able to mix match and pit any of the factions you know and love against each other in this 2-player setting eventually. Now, as I said, I don't want to get super into the weeds on the gameplay because, again, in the Cthulhu Wars Duel review that I did, I do talk about that. You'll notice you still have your spell books, your power setting, and all of the basic things that you'll know from that game. The thing that I was most intrigued by and really enjoyed when I got into the Extinction version of this game was the map itself. Now, this particular map is a different setting. It's a different setup than the first map, but it also incorporates additional rules. Now, new variants, maps, and game types are no stranger to Cthulhu Wars. Sandy Petersen loves to put out additional content, but I was really pleased with this particular pairing because it certainly has the factions that it selected in mind as it plays out. So let's talk about that. Now, if you look closely at the map, you may notice that there are these dark towers, which look very much like the Dark Tower, setting around the board. And these dark towers are popping up all over the place. And what they do is they're actually going to be these tokens that pop out onto the board, and they're going to take control of gates as they spread and consider them abandoned for everyone's interest. So say we had the sleeper over here controlling this gate. When a dark tower pops up, that is going to boot that cultist off of that gate, and it's going to treat it as abandoned for everyone. So everyone will start gaining equal power, but it'll be very hard to maintain control of your gates. Now, at every Doom phase, at the start of the game, you're going to put these dark towers out at every Doom phase. The first Doom phase, they're going to go out where your faction has started in their starting zone. So you can count on your first starting gate to give you some decent power once, and then it will be gone forever. And from there, one of the players, the first player, is going to pick where those dark towers go. They're going to do 2 every turn wherever there's a dark tower sigil on the board. And you'll see that some places are safe from the dark towers, but not many. And so as you spread out, you'll want to think very carefully about where you place your gates and how long they might actually be providing you power, at least a good chunk of power. I think that's a wonderful idea for this map, given the fact that both Sleeper and Windwalker are notorious factions in the base game for being turtley factions, we'll say. Factions that move slowly and like to gain and collect a great deal of power. And so this map itself is designed to help push these particular factions to strive to move quicker than they might naturally be inclined to do. And I think that that is a wonderful pairing. And again, you'll notice there's not dark towers everywhere on the board, so players are going to be fighting over key strategic locations where they know their gates are safe, or maybe they'll choose to take a risk and hope that they're first player and put their gate in a dark tower zone, hoping that they can maintain first player control and keep the dark tower tokens away from their particular gates. This aspect makes this map feel very fresh and new and different from something that we've played in the original Duel, where there was not this feature kind of pushing you and forcing you to expand. There's really no option to set up and turtle here, as the dark towers will catch up to you and you will certainly fall behind in the power game. So all in all, I was really pleased with that aspect and incorporation into the game. And of course, you don't need the original game, the core game, Duel, for this, or vice versa, but it's fun to see how the different factions mesh and interact with each other on this new map. I do think the map really shines with these two particular factions, but it's fun to see it interact with all of the various factions in play. And you can tell and feel Sandy's kind of continual attention to detail and care as the Petersen Games family kind of navigates and continues to build content in the Cthulhu Wars realm. And so again, the factions play similar to how you would experience them in the core game. The gameplay itself feels wildly different in the sense that you're being pushed and throttled ahead so that you can try to race and beat your opponent. So it feels very much like a race against time, and I thought that that was a wonderful incorporation and use of this particular map. Little things we'll talk about. I love the art on the sides of the map. Just the general art on the map itself is very beautiful, and the attention to these really nice standees I think is great. Now we know obviously this isn't going to have exactly the table presence that its big brother has, but these standees still look great and feel very menacing and powerful on the map. When you drop your great old one, you know it's there. You're not missing that presence on the map. And so I was really pleased with this experience across the board. And that, in a nutshell, is everything you need to know about Cthulhu Wars Duel Extinction. Again, I know I dove a little bit deeper into some of my thoughts and feelings on the game before, but I did want to share just a few of my kind of closing thoughts and why I think this is a good addition to your game. Now, one thing I've been really mindful of trying to do lately is talk about the rulebooks. I think that a good rulebook can help a mediocre game, and a bad rulebook can kill a great game. And so I've tried to really take a few more minutes to talk about these. I was really impressed with how chunky this rulebook was for the size of this game, right? Like, here's the box, and the rulebook is, you know, massive for the size and scope of the game. I was really pleased with that, really impressed with that, because this rulebook has everything you need to know about the game. If you're brand new, never touch Cthulhu Wars, the old game, the new game, anything, everything you need is here, and it's going to really help you. And one of the things I love about the Cthulhu Wars rulebooks across the board is they have multiple illustrations of anything that could be confusing. Like, here's how Ritual of Annihilation works. Here's how battle works. Here's how a battle works with retreat. Here's how a battle works with kills. Everything is really clearly laid out. So if you have a question, you can trust that this rulebook's going to get you through it. Again, there's a few tweaks to this game as opposed to the core big area control game. So that's nice. Those are well laid out on the back of a quick reference sheet, as well as through there, through the rulebook itself, so you know what you're doing different and what you need to be mindful of if you're kind of an OG Cthulhu Wars player and need to switch gears a little bit. Again, this is a great game. If you like Cthulhu Wars and have a buddy that you really just want to play this with on a more truncated scale, or specifically you just don't have enough people to get into a full game of Cthulhu Wars, I think Duel is a great fit for you. I've enjoyed getting this to the table with just one person from time to time, and we just don't have enough people at the table. But I also enjoy having it around to showcase it to new players because the time commitment is smaller. And so if I have a guy who maybe is on the fence about playing an area control game, or is like, I don't really know, this seems like a lot, you can say, well, here, try this. You know, it's kind of like the first one's free, right? Try this little bit and see if you like it. And if they do, they say, well, man, if you like this, you're really going to love the core game because it's just this, but more. more. And so I think that's a really nice way to look at it. But also, this is great on its own in the sense that it does stand on its own two legs and is different and is unique from Cthulhu Wars. And so really excited, again, as I mentioned earlier, I think we can see that many new factions or additional factions from the original game will be coming here. We have the sigils and the signs for Crawling Chaos and Yellow Sign. We can, I'm sure, trust that Opener and Ancients will find their way here as well. So it'll be great to have all the factions that you can mix, match, and pair with these really cool maps that have different effects and things to them. And so there's a lot to enjoy, and the price tag, again, is not very high. And so I think for all things considered, it's a great game. If you're looking for something to have in that two-player range, then Duel Extinction is probably one you'll want to check out. I know I enjoyed my time with it, and I'm pretty certain that you will too. So again, lots of thoughts, rapid fire machine gun things, but all to say, if you like area control, you like Lovecraft mythos, Cthulhu Wars Duel Extinction is for you. Thanks so much for checking out this content. I really appreciate you coming to Meeple Mountain for all of your board gaming needs. I hope you continue to do so, and as always, happy gaming. Thanks for checking out this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Check out these links to find some other games you might want to bring to the table. This is Tyler Williams, signing off.